It's been 3 or 4 weeks now since we three met in person in Norway. And we're still in shell shock, I imagine.
Yes, exactly. I keep thinking about it, trying to remember every detail I can, because it was such a special moment. And I really felt this was going to be almost a religious experience for me. Didn't quite turn out to be like that because I think I was in shock most of the time. But having you and Pontus there was a real pleasure and made it very real for me. It's just that moment when she walked on stage, my mouth fell open and I didn't know. After that, it was like, oh my God. I wasn't going to record much, but I kept recording one after the other.
Yeah.
And then I finally decided I need to look at her because I'm looking through a camera the whole time. And so that was very special.
It's funny what happened because 6 months ago, when the concerts were announced, I said to my sister that Angelina Jordan is giving some concerts in Norway. And I said to her, I'm thinking about going. And she said, what are you thinking about? You have to go. There's
cool.
no choice. And as soon as she said that, I realized she was right. As soon as she said that,
it was the same for me. It was a real revelatory moment when I looked at my computer and some message popped up saying Angelina Jordan's giving an extra concert on July 10th. And so I thought about a minute and then I said, you know what? I'm buying 2 tickets. That's it. I bought 2 tickets, went home, told my wife, and she looked at me like I was crazy. I said, I don't know, but this is something I have to do. And I didn't really know why, but I had to do it.
Yeah. When my wife and I were courting, she knew that I liked to travel. And that was something early on in our courtship that we discussed. And so she didn't want to be left behind when I went to Norway. And I said to her, this will not be an ordinary trip. This will be something a bit different.
It was great to see so many people coming up to both of you. I think you probably didn't anticipate it as much as it had. And also all the positive thoughts and comments of everybody.
Yeah. Everybody was happy. So that was good. And Alan warned me, Pontus, do you realize that people are going to stop you on the street? And I was just, that ain't going to happen. But it sure did. People were coming up and saying very nice things about what we're doing with our videos and the podcast and everything. So that was an extra and surprising benefit of going.
Pontus, I haven't mentioned this to you, but on the Shield channel, someone referred to us as those Angelina podcast guys.
That's a cool name. Yeah.
Somebody actually came up to me and said they recognized me. I said, that's impossible. I've never been on YouTube. They said, we recognize you from your comments.
Some of the comments on my own channel and also on the Wrapped in a Warm Blanket, it's comments that make you think, yes, this is why I'm doing this. This is worthwhile, really.
And we're not alone because there are so many people that commented exactly the way I was thinking that I realized, boy, this is a common issue. It's not just me alone that's thinking these amazing thoughts about her. It's lots of people, and they have come to very similar conclusions. So they don't really care. They just want to enjoy her. And they've never been a fan before of anybody else. They're not a super fan type person. But all of a sudden, at this point in time in their life, they found somebody that really deeply touches them.
And that's exactly why we started the podcast, exactly for that reason, just to say to people, you're not a freak and you're not alone. And what you are experiencing is the same thing as thousands and thousands of people around the world are experiencing.
Yeah, and I think her interviews have been really valuable, and her book also. They give an extra insight into why she does what she does and how she does it. To this day, I still marvel at how calm and serene she is when she gets in front of the world. For instance, in the AGT video where she sang Bohemian Rhapsody, she was interviewed before and she was crying, saying, this is the most important moment of my life. And yet she gets on stage totally relaxed, totally confident, no nerves whatsoever, even starts singing before the light actually hit her face. And she surprised everybody by starting to sing early. It was just amazing. I've trained a lot of students and I've been in front of lots of audiences, and I understand what being nervous is about. Even if you're extremely confident in what you're doing, most people have nerves for a few minutes before they start to relax. If they really know their subject. If you don't know your subject as well as you hope, and the crowd may be very antagonistic, you'll still remain very nervous throughout your entire talk. But she has none of that. And it's just, I've never seen anybody in my life like that. And that really is the first thing that shocked me, is how she was able to handle being in front of cameras cruise, videos, blogs, everything, and interviews, and she shows no fear whatsoever. You just see the genuine, true, beautiful person that she is.
Yeah, that is something I think a lot of us can look up to. I haven't had any idol when I was growing up. I didn't have anybody I listened to was a fan of or anything like that. But now when I'm over 50, I have this young teenager that is my idol and that I look up to. It's crazy, but there you have it.
I think with her family photographing her constantly from very, very early on, that may have allowed her to become very comfortable in front of a lens, and therefore it gave her an extra added advantage that rest of us don't have, because we didn't grow up having people constantly looking at what we did and photographing it. So by her singing for her grandmother and mom and her uncle, and everything gets recorded, that may have given her that extra edge of why she is so serene in front of a camera.
Angelina Jordan, when she grew up watching her granny, who was an artist, the way she understood that her granny and being an artist were one and the same, and it was totally integrated. She had that image from a very young age that a person can be an artist and it can be totally integrated. And also the relationship Angelina Jordan has to being a singer, it's almost the way a young girl anticipates being a mother. This is who I am, this is my destiny, and it's just a matter of me growing into it.
Very good. I agree with that. So recently I read her book, which I finally got in the English version as a digital book, and it's really beautiful, and I really recommend everyone see it. It's a very, very heartwarming, and it makes you want to cry for sure. The thoughts of a 6-year-old with what she did, I don't know any adults that do this kind of thinking. And I also discovered why she loves blue eyes. I think one reason that I may be wrong, but you know how early impressions are very important on young children. When she was 6 and she met that homeless girl, the very first comment she wrote in her book about her was that she had beautiful blue eyes. And then in the book, her grandmother, who did all the illustrations, highlights these blue eyes in each of the figures that she drew of the homeless girl, to where the blue eyes actually shine and sparkle and are the major focal point of each page where the homeless is in there. So I think from a very early age, she fell in love with blue eyes, and maybe that's why she wears those blue contact lenses more and more frequently. She used to intermittently wear them, but now she pretty much wears them all the time, from what I can see.
That book, Between Two Hearts, is so full of clues to where she is now. And it's amazing to follow that. It's almost like an artist. I know my father was an artist, he was a painter. And when you see his early works, you can see the progression up to what he was doing until his death. And you can see the development. And that is something that we can now witness with Angelina in her artistry. And that book is full of surprisingly well put phrases that I think she was 9 when she wrote the book, wasn't she?
Yes, 9 years old.
I mean, it's not something that a normal 9-year-old would put together. It's not like a fairy tale at all. It's more poetry, but not with rhymes, but it's surprisingly well written. You get a tear in your eye when you read it. It's that good.
Her music is absolutely spectacular and breathtaking, and it captures people. But on another level, it is her benevolence and kindness, which she expresses so simply and heartfelt and with such humanity, which is just as spectacular as her music. And that is something which actually has drawn me in. Perhaps if it were just her music alone, I might not be as drawn in as I am. But because there are so few opportunities to find someone who advocates the simplicity of kindness as their basis. Because I so fundamentally agree with that, that is one of the reasons why I want to project Angelina Jordan on as many levels as I can.
I agree with you absolutely, completely. It's the same for me. And when people ask me, what do you love about her? I say, it's not just her singing. It's her persona. It's who she is. And the way she embraces life, it's just inspiring. And it's very hard to explain that to someone else. I can't explain it to my wife. She won't understand it. She sees this teenager singing and she just says, okay, it's singing. It's very nice and everything, but I don't see where you get it. I said, it's because I've gone deeper into who she is based upon the interviews, her book, things she says, her family relationship, her actions, working for charities, singing for charities, giving her shoes to a 6-year-old who doesn't have any. It is almost like a fairy tale. To find someone like this, I think is just such a privilege.
Yeah. And it's an inspiration to all of us to
Yes.
be better persons and to be kinder. And as she said in the concert as well, she said, let's just all be kind to each other. That's what the world needs the most.
And she also said, which was the most important thing for me, is she said, because everyone came from so far, it just spurs me to be better and better and work harder and harder. That to me was music to my ears.
If you watch her career unfold and how she's improving exponentially, that is a feature of great artists. If you watch Picasso, or you watch even Woody Allen's career or Bob Dylan's career over 30 or 50 years, the way they evolve as a human gets reflected in their art. And you can actually see how they develop as a person according to how their art develops.
Yeah. I think what we're listening to is sort of a reflection of her as a human being, in a way similar to other artists that sort of reflects their own being within their art, which is fascinating to me. I think some of those things are picked up on a subconscious level.
Yeah. Do you know how we have the expression ripple in the pond? Well, a variation of that is the more still the pond, the smaller the pebble you need to create a ripple. And because Angelina Jordan is very sensitive, the emotions in her get magnified in a way that you and I cannot really experience. But I believe because of her extreme sensitivity, that is the medium which makes her singing so very, very special.
Well, for me, there's another personal aspect about her. Ever since I was a child, I have had I call it a burden, but I've had a very strong importance in my life to try and cure cancer. It sounds crazy, but I've dedicated my life to this. And I think I'm getting closer and closer to it. The one thing about biology is completely different than math and physics, where you do your best work when you're young. In biology, you do your best work when you're older.
Wow.
And I'm in my position right now where I'm highly experienced. I have lots of connections, lots of tools to work with. And I think I'm getting closer and closer. And I really want to see if I can make this happen in my lifetime that I have left. And Angelina has a similar, very strong emotional drive to be the best she can and to sing for the world. She said that as a young child, I want to sing for the world. And yet when she writes Seventh Heaven and the others, it's a great burden. And you can see the stress it could put on somebody, that especially as you get older and older, you start feeling that your years are getting shorter and shorter, like ours. The burden becomes bigger and bigger. And so for me, Angelina Jordan is a company for me. She's given me someone else who has a very high goal that most people don't have. I think this has also been another personal aspect of why I love her so much.
That is a great story, Alan, because what you have just explained is almost like one in a million, where you and Angelina Jordan have this in common, where you have had a personal destiny and a personal calling of something that you can do, which is exquisitely special, which can improve the world.
And it actually goes a little deeper. When I grew up, I was aware that my whole maternal side of the family were professional musicians. Now, I didn't get to meet them because they were all immigrants from Europe, but there were two world-class violinists. I had a cellist cousin who was in the Boston Symphony. My mother was a spectacular pianist trained in Juilliard. I had two uncles that were pianists as well, who some say were as good as Rubinstein. They were really spectacular, but didn't make the fame that he did. So I had this musical genes in my blood. And I played the piano for 10 years, realized early on that I was not going to be good enough to be a practicing classical pianist. But I spent millions of hours, working on the piano. And it all went to sleep when I went to medical school and did my MD, PhD there. And all my training took all my time. So piano and music became a very side issue, and I almost went to sleep until I rediscovered Angelina, because I started waking up some of my musical interests and my ability to understand music and to feel music. I was told early on that I had a very strong emotional component to my thinking and music. And many people use that as a negative to me, because when I was doing my PhD, many said to me, "Oh, you're too emotional. You've got to relax. You've got to be more even keeled." And they thought that my getting married would be one thing that would really help in doing that. And it has greatly. Having a family and everything certainly is a very grounding experience. And you don't get to explore your emotional sides very much, especially in esoteric things like music. But since I'm older and my family has grown up, I have the luxury of having time and effort to go back and to re-explore my very beginnings of, not just science, but also music as being a very important part of my life. It's just reawakening.
That's great. And I would not be surprised if the reawakening musicality in you is actually helping your cancer research.
It's definitely reawakening my desire to complete my goal, which is very easy to let go because there's so many negatives against you. Everything seems to be working against greatness happening. I just have to refocus. And she's enabled me to do that. She's given me a great focus. I mean, every day I come home before bed, I go look at her reactions, and I love seeing people enjoy her as much as I do. I particularly love listening to the vocal coaches who look at her technical side, because I always wonder, how good is she? I'm not an expert in singing, but when I hear them praising her and saying, wow, she's one in a million, that reinforces my feeling that, yeah, she is somebody worth following and getting to know better.
It's interesting that we've brought this up in conversation, because last night Pontus and I were interviewing Robert, who is a former music teacher, and he has the musical knowledge, but he also has the spontaneous emotional reaction. And we were all talking about how those two aspects marry with each other, whether it's an advantage or disadvantage to have the mental understanding as well as the emotional gut feeling.
And there's a moment in one of her videos, I think it's my Funny Valentine. At the very end, she's sitting on the couch, the music is over, and she's looking around the room, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she looks directly at the camera for like a second, and then quickly turns her eyes away. That second pierces me so much that it's really remarkable. I don't know if it affected everyone else, but her looking at you, it was worth the whole journey, really.
We may never know whether that was by design or by chance.
But I certainly appreciate it, and I love it.
So, Alan, with your medical background and with your very articulate use of the English language, why don't you tell us how Angelina Jordan makes you feel, how she affects you down to the bottom of your boots?
Well, initially she would give me goosebumps, like most people. But now she just makes me want to cry. And it's funny because I start to want to cry and then I can't finish it. It's like I come back to reality and I just want to listen to her and love it. And I try and analyze why I want to cry, but it's mostly, I said what you said before, it's the persona, the whole package, her inner and outer beauty, her dedication to music, her choice of songs, I think is remarkable. I mean, she's doing something that no young girl has ever done, going back to 2-3 decades before and bringing back the best that they had to offer and making them better. This is a gift.
Yeah.
That this music will not be forgotten. For instance, when she does Patsy Cline, I think Crazy is one of her best songs. She even said it during the concert that this is one of my favorite songs. I love singing it. And you could tell she completely understands and gives a performance as good as Patsy Cline. Just so remarkable. And, thinking about how Patsy Cline died in her plane crash and died so young, it's just so sad. And it's just really heartwarming to hear Angelina bring back some of those incredible songs.
It's funny because I was watching a new reactor who's only just discovered Angelina, and he's heard two songs, two recent ones. He's heard Suspicious Minds and I Have Nothing. And he surprised himself But he said, I have to say, I prefer her versions to Whitney and Elvis. And it made me smile because it's something the three of us know. And we're so far down into the rabbit hole that we've come out in China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think most people agree that both those songs are huge milestones for her.
Yeah.
For Whitney Houston's song, when she was 13, she was having trouble. She hit all the high notes, but she was definitely straining. And a lot of the vocal coaches said that it's right at the edge of where she can't perform. But now, by lowering the key slightly to a key and a half down to E from G, she made a very smart decision. She put her voice more in the wheelhouse of her expertise, but she still was able to express herself. And everyone has remarked about how fantastic her vibrato is. It's so unique and different and so beautiful, and her breathing and her control of the song, that the Whitney Houston song now, especially in the black and white version in the studio, is now reached practically perfection. I mean, the nuances she puts in between the notes. Whitney Houston didn't do any of that. And I made the comment to Alan once. I said to her, I don't think Whitney Houston at age 16 could sing her own songs. I don't think she was that good at that time, you know.
And one of the most remarkable things about Angelina is just that, her ability to take a song from Elvis and take a song from Whitney Houston and take a song from all of those great artists before her and do them even better than they did. I mean, that's unheard of. Ella Fitzgerald, she couldn't sing like Whitney Houston. I've never heard of any artist that could do it quite like that.
Well, it's interesting. Certain artists is the ones that she does incredibly well. Like Patsy Cline, I'd say Elvis, and I also think Adele. She's able to take their songs and make them better and more emotional. For me, the very first song that she sang of Elvis, which was Welcome to My World, was one of my favorites. It still is. It's a very simple song, but the way she says each of the phrases, it's so heart-rending and touches you so beautifully. Everybody was so mad that she cut it off and had it set too short. But I think that song in particular. And then the other song that is really remarkable is Mr. Lonely. She sings that, and she's a young 11-year-old. I mean, it's just beautiful with so much emotion. And then finally, with Suspicious Minds, is a huge milestone. She has captured the power of the studio, and the music video there has become something that she is now comfortable in doing and very remarkably artistic in doing. And her voice was so powerful in Suspicious Minds. From the very, very first note, she has you. The fact that she started in the middle of the song and ended in the middle was also very clever and gave much more emotion to the song itself. We're going to see some remarkable things in the next year or two, because she has really climbed the ladder and is now at the peak of her performance at this point.
Yeah, and it will be so interesting to see her original songs coming out.
Oh, yes, that's going to be really good.
They can really take over the world, I think.
Yes. She gave us a hint in one of her interviews. She said that she is so in love with her cousins, these little babies that came from Michael, and she's already have a lot of music that she's written around them. So I expect we're going to see some music about the beauty of childhood and birth and so forth. So it's going to be a very interesting time. I'm just amazed that Republic Records has let her be who she is, the way she is. I mean, she's a gold mine, and yet they haven't really exploited her. And I think that's really wonderful commentary about how you can maintain your self-identity, yet still be working with professionals that are going to make her better and better. And it says a lot about Rob Christie and what he's doing with her. I mean, he's doing a fantastic job.
If you see a deer in the forest and you have some food in your hand, you don't move suddenly, you move very slowly so that you have a rapport with the deer. And so I think everyone around her knows that you have to treat the situation with the utmost sensitivity.
When you're working with a genius, because I really do think she is a musical genius.
I do too.
Then, I mean, just let her have her way. There's nothing you can do that makes it better. So if she wants to do it this way, then just let her.
Yeah. One or two examples of her genius is, first of all, she speaks 3 or 4 languages, but her English is totally remarkable. I mean, I can't hear any accent at all. But the thing that got me, if you look at her first time in the studio when she's 6 years old, she is reading the words in English of this song, which are complex words. And she really has a gift for language and music, and I think they go together.
Yeah, I mean, you can go even further back and take a look at that clip from when she was 18 months old singing Whitney Houston. I mean, there's so much that she does there. When you think of it, which 18-month-old baby can do that? She handles a microphone and she's singing along with the text, and although she's not pronouncing the words, but it's there. It's quite remarkable clip, really.
It made me smile because before she went out to sing Gloomy Sunday, the technician said, "You've used a microphone before, haven't you?" And she could have said, "Yeah, since 18 months old I have."
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of her. I'm starting to think of her as two people. One is from 16 and younger, when she was a child, mostly in her 11 and 12. When she hit 11, she was already a consummate performer. And some of the songs I listen to are so beautiful. You can still hear the slight child voice in her, and it makes it even more beautiful. And then I miss her as being that young, beautiful, innocent girl with that Mona Lisa smile that everybody fell in love with, who gives very short interviews, but are very beautifully done and very heartfelt. And you can feel the beauty of the person behind her. And then now she's this teenager who is exploring teenagehood. I just think of what she's going to go through in the next several years. And I was so jealous of both Egil and the other guitarists who got to witness some of these transitions and being so close to her and seeing her. The other point about her being a genius is when Egil and Ivan described the fact that they would go over to her house and they would chat for a while. And then she would ask, "Do you know this song? Do you know that song?" And they would learn it for a minute. And then once they got the chords down, she would immediately sing it and be reading the words. So she didn't memorize, she didn't know the songs all that well, but she was able to come out in one take, fabulous reconstructions of these very complex songs. And this is a genius. You can't pretend that she's not, after seeing her being able to do that. It's just amazing.
My wife spends a lot of time in the garden, and she's been doing that for 20 or 30 years. And just walking down the street, she will give me a botanical lesson. "Oh, look at that tree. Look at how it's blooming. Look at the shape of that leaf." And she'll see things that I never, ever would notice. And so when you have someone who is advanced and specialized in the career, they just open up a completely different world for you. You can walk down the street 100 times and not see the tree in the same way. Alan, you mentioned biology before. One of the things which absolutely fascinates me is that the cell of plants is the same as the cell of animals and humans. And for me, that is a biological proof that we are all one. I actually think of evolution and Angelina Jordan, because maybe in 10,000 years, how the average person will be how Angelina Jordan is now. Maybe she is the future direction of how we can and should evolve.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Especially with all the troubles the world is going through right now. It's really sad. And by the way, last night I went to see the Elvis movie, which I highly recommend. And it starts out with Suspicious Minds singing that in the background, and it ends with it. So it brought home a lot about what Angelina did. But his life was so wonderful initially and then so bad at the end. We just pray that this is not going to happen to Angelina, but I really don't think it will. I think she has too strong an internal makeup. And I think she just has such a strong love of music, as did Elvis. He loved being on stage as much as Angelina, and that's where he really shined, when he was on stage. The rest of his life was not as good as when he was stage performing. It didn't come out very well. But so I just pray that Angelina is able to develop her personal life as much as she has her stage presence and her life and love of music. And that's what we all wish for her.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's a typical human trait, that we think that this is too good to be true. I mean, something bad must happen soon because this is so. But I mean, her whole life has been like that. She is too good to be true. She has the right genes, the right
environment.
Yeah, everything just came together and brought us this wonderful human being. And I really do hope she makes it on a broad level once she's ready for it, because I think she can be a very positive drive for the human race, actually, because if we can be inspired by her and take lead from her, then if a lot of people can do that, then we really can make the world a better place.
Yeah. She alone can revolutionize the field of child development.
Yeah, that's true. Showing how important early recognition of your talent and early development of your talent can give you a tremendous advantage over the normal child. The normal child doesn't even know what they want until maybe high school,
Yeah.
or even later. Even some people in college have no idea what they want to do. Here she was at 18 months, realizing that she had a God-given talent and was able to develop it and stay with it. And I also want to thank the Waldorf School, because I think they did a fantastic job. And that is also another strong positive for her, that she had such a fantastic open education with a very interesting and different approach than normal kids get in regular school.
There's a lot of things that really came together to bring us this wonderful human being. I know my father once told me about his drive, because he was a very productive artist. He had this need to express himself in art. And he said it actually began when he was like 3 or 4 years old, when his father made some puppets and was making like a puppet show. And I remember my father told me he was like looking up to these puppets, and he got this first sort of artistic vision in his mind. And that vision was what he was trying to recreate his whole life with his paintings.
Yeah.
And I think it ties in with what Angelina said, that she was 2 years old when she discovered Billie Holiday. And she said in one interview, there would be no Angelina if there was no Billie Holiday. Yeah. And I think that's a pretty amazing thing, that in such a young age, children can pick up on stuff and just go with it.
That's very true of many child prodigies. You hear that they actually had visions, or they had a deep emotional reaction, or something happened to them that put them on this direction, and it clinged with what they're actually talented with. And so that's very common. But the interesting thing is, why does a early developing brain from a young child influence the adult so much? That to me is very remarkable when you think about it. I told Alan this one when we were talking back in Norway. I said, I'm pretty sure I fell in love with my wife because when I was in 8th grade, I had a crush on a young girl, and her face was like beyond, I just couldn't understand why I was so attracted to her. And then the moment I saw my wife's face, which was very similar to hers, I was definitely in love. So again, there's an example of how early influences are so important to our brain, our development of the rest of the adult being. And it's really interesting when you think about that. That's why childhood is so important.
I think the word which we're implying in between the lines is cumulative. We are a series of trillions of cumulative experiences, and each one is like a building block, but one is built on top of another. And you have been a spectacular guest. Not a hint of stuttering at all. And you have presented yourself clearly and spontaneously, and we didn't even need to rehearse.
Yes, we didn't do any rehearsals.
We didn't do any
rehearsals. I was a little worried about that, but once I'm passionate about something, it just flows. You two have brought the best out of me, and I really thank you for it. And I think all the fans, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. I have 2 questions for you before we let you go. And one is, how close are you to solving the riddle of cancer?
Oh, to be honest, I think we're very close. We could thank immunology, because immunology, and that was my first love. I fell in love with immunology when I was very young, maybe 12 years old or 13. I started reading immunology way before it became a fashionable thing. So I went directly into that field, and this is the way we're going to solve most of our medical needs today that have not been solved more easily, like antibiotics or drugs or other things. The immune system is the second most complex system in the body next to the nervous system. It's movable, it moves around the body. There are multiple cells that are compose the immune system. And as we have clarified and quantitated, identified all the components of immunology and how they're so critical for maintaining the normal state of health and what goes wrong during disease, that we're going to solve many of the more difficult medical problems, including cancer.
Wow.
And I think I can anticipate Pontus's second question.
Yeah, because this was the easy question. Now to the hard question.
Alan, would you like to pick out a song in which to end this video?
Oh boy.
Now we shut him up.
See, that's something that's very interesting. When Alan asks other people, or Pontus asks other people, what's your favorite song? I have a real problem. I have so many. I already mentioned Welcome to My World. I also, At Last is another one, which is just, I can't believe she sang that in the first two words. It's like, oh my God, that is so beautiful. I also love What a Difference a Day Makes. I think that when she was 8 years old, singing that in front of that huge crowd, with her eyes rolling up in her head, in a trance, singing this song that was from the 70s or 60s or something. And everybody in the audience was like in shock. How could a young girl sound like that and sing like that? It was just amazing.
Alan, what we'll do is we'll play 10 seconds from your top 100 favorite songs, and that will only add 10 minutes to the video, okay?
Yeah, and I'm like everybody else. The last song she did is my favorite. So everybody says that, oh, I think this is her best song. This is her best song, because that's how good she's getting and how much better she's performing.
It's hard to imagine that she is still going from strength to strength. And it is like trying to get to the end of the rainbow, and the rainbow is right in front of us, but we go there and then we see even more spectacular colors.
Colors, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just when you thought she couldn't get any better, she does.
Alan, thank you. You're a star.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
My lonely days are over, and life is like a song. Oh yeah, at last the skies above are blue. My heart was wrapped up in a clover. The night I looked at you, I found the dream that I could speak to, a dream that I can call my own. I found a thrill to press my cheek to, a thrill that I have never known. Oh yeah, yeah, you smile, oh, and here we are in the heaven